In the landscape of American capitalism, where wealth and power have historically been concentrated in the hands of a select few, a remarkable transformation has been unfolding over the past 7 decades. Black entrepreneurs, against seemingly insurmountable odds, have built business empires that have not only generated billions in revenue, but have fundamentally reshaped American culture, media, technology, and commerce. These are not stories of overnight success or lottery winners. These are dynasties built brick by brick through vision, resilience, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. The term dynasty evokes images of multi-generational wealth, institutional power, and lasting influence. When we examine the business empires built by Black entrepreneurs in America, we see all of these elements and something more: a profound commitment to community uplift, cultural preservation, and creating pathways for others to follow. From the Motown sound that defined generations to the technology platforms that power modern enterprise, from the film studios that tell untold stories to the fashion labels that set global trends, Black business dynasties have left an indelible mark on the American economic landscape. This examination focuses on 6 major dynasties that represent different sectors of the American economy. The Gordy family's Motown Records, which revolutionized the music industry. Robert L. Johnson's BET empire, which transformed Black media representation. Russell Simmons and Damon Dash's hip-hop business ventures that bridged music, fashion, and lifestyle branding. Tyler Perry's entertainment studio that redefined independent film production. Robert F. Smith's Vista Equity Partners, which dominates enterprise software investing. And David Stewart's Worldwide Technology, a tech giant that proves excellence knows no color. These dynasties share common threads. They identified underserved markets, created products and services that resonated with authenticity, scaled their operations with strategic brilliance, and ultimately transcended their initial niches to become mainstream powerhouses. But perhaps most importantly, they maintained a commitment to giving back, to mentorship, and to opening doors that had previously been closed to Black Americans. The story of Black business dynasties in America is not just an economic narrative. It is a story of cultural revolution, social transformation, and the persistent pursuit of the American dream in the face of systemic barriers. It is a story that continues to unfold, with new chapters being written every day by entrepreneurs who stand on the shoulders of these giants. The Gordy Dynasty, Motown Records and the Sound of Young America. On January 12, 1959, Berry Gordy Jr. borrowed $800 from his family's savings club and founded Tamla Records in Detroit, Michigan. Within a year, he established Motown Records, a label that would become synonymous with American popular music and would fundamentally alter the trajectory of the recording industry. But Motown was more than just a record label. It was a finishing school, a cultural institution, and a business empire that proved Black entrepreneurs could compete and dominate in any industry. Berry Gordy came from a family of entrepreneurs. His father, Berry Gordy Sr., had moved the family from Georgia to Detroit during the Great Migration, seeking better opportunities in the industrial North. The elder Gordy established several small businesses, instilling in his children the value of economic independence and self-determination. Young Berry tried his hand at various ventures: a record store, a stint as a professional boxer, work on the Ford assembly line, before finding his calling in music. What made Gordy's vision revolutionary was not just his ear for talent, though that was considerable. It was his understanding that for Black artists to achieve mainstream success, they needed more than raw talent. They needed polish, presentation, and business acumen. Gordy created what he called the Motown sound, a carefully crafted blend of soul, pop, and R&B that could appeal to both Black and white audiences during a deeply segregated era. Motown's artist roster reads like a who's who of American music royalty: Diana Ross and the Supremes, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, The Temptations, The Four Tops, Smokey Robinson and The Miracles, the Jackson 5, and dozens more. But Gordy's genius extended beyond signing talent. He created an in-house system that controlled every aspect of artist development. The company had its own songwriting team, the legendary Holland-Dozier-Holland trio, its own producers, choreographers, and etiquette instructors. Artists underwent rigorous training in how to walk, talk, dress, and perform. Nothing was left to chance. The business model was vertically integrated long before that term became corporate jargon. Motown controlled the recording, publishing, distribution, and promotion of its music. This gave Gordy unprecedented leverage in negotiations and ensured that the maximum amount of revenue stayed within the company. By the mid-1960s, Motown was the most successful independent record label in America, with more #1 hits on the Billboard charts than any other company except the Beatles. The financial success was staggering. In 1966, Motown grossed $20 million in revenue, equivalent to nearly $180 million today. The company employed over 450 people and operated multiple subsidiary labels. When Gordy sold Motown to MCA in 1988 for $61 million, he had built it from that initial $800 loan into one of the most valuable entertainment properties in America. But Motown's impact transcended dollars and cents. The label's music provided the soundtrack to the civil rights movement, broke down racial barriers on radio and television, and proved that black cultural products could dominate mainstream American culture. When the Supremes performed on The Ed Sullivan Show, when the Temptations topped the pop charts, when Stevie Wonder won Grammy after Grammy, they were not just individual achievements, they were collective victories that expanded what was possible for Black Americans. The Gordy dynasty also understood the importance of ownership and wealth building within the Black community. Berry Gordy's success inspired countless other Black entrepreneurs to believe they could build businesses of similar scale. Several of Motown's artists and executives went on to establish their own labels and production companies, creating a multiplier effect that rippled through the entertainment industry for generations. Today, the Gordy family's influence continues through various business ventures and through the preservation of Motown's legacy. The Motown Museum in Detroit attracts visitors from around the world, and the label's catalog, now owned by Universal Music Group, continues to generate hundreds of millions in revenue. The Gordy dynasty proved that cultural authenticity combined with business excellence could build an empire that would outlast its founder. The Johnson dynasty, BET, and Black media ownership. In 1979, Robert L. Johnson sat in his modest office in Washington, D.C. with an audacious idea: create a cable television network dedicated to Black audiences. At the time, Black Americans were largely invisible on television except in stereotypical roles, and the notion that a network targeting Black viewers could be commercially viable seemed far-fetched to most industry observers. But Johnson saw what others didn't: an underserved market of millions of Black Americans hungry for content that reflected their lives, culture, and aspirations. Johnson's path to this moment was itself a testament to perseverance and strategic thinking. Born in Mississippi in 1946, he was one of 10 children in a working-class family. Through academic excellence and determination, he earned degrees from the University of Illinois and Princeton University. He worked in Washington as a lobbyist and press secretary before joining the National Cable Television Association, where he gained insider knowledge of the cable industry just as it was beginning its explosive growth. On January 25, 1980, Black Entertainment Television, BET, launched with just 2 hours of programming per week. Johnson had secured $500,000 in funding from cable pioneer John Malone and his company, Telecommunications Inc., TCI. The programming was modest: music videos, reruns of old shows, and limited original content. But it filled a void, and Black audiences responded enthusiastically. What Johnson understood, what made him a visionary businessman rather than just a programmer, was that cable television operated on a unique economic model. Cable networks earned revenue from two sources: advertising and per-subscriber fees paid by cable operators. If Johnson could prove that BET attracted viewers, cable operators would pay to carry the channel, creating a steady revenue stream before selling a single advertisement. This dual revenue stream model would become the foundation of BET's financial success. Johnson expanded programming gradually but strategically. He added news programming with BET News and talk shows that addressed issues relevant to Black Americans. He created Video Soul and Rap City, programs that became essential platforms for emerging hip-hop artists. He launched Bet Soundstage, showcasing R&B and soul performances. Each program was designed not just to entertain, but to build a loyal audience that advertisers wanted to reach. The business grew steadily through the 1980s and exploded in the 1990s as cable penetration reached critical mass. By 1991, BET had become profitable, and Johnson took the company public, becoming the first Black CEO of a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. The IPO raised capital that Johnson used to expand into additional ventures: BET Movies, BET Gospel, restaurants, and even a short-lived fashion line. But Johnson's masterstroke came in 2001 when he sold BET to Viacom for $3 billion. In one transaction, Robert L. Johnson became America's first Black billionaire. The significance cannot be overstated. A Black entrepreneur had built a media company valuable enough to attract one of the world's largest media conglomerates, and he negotiated a price that made him a billionaire. It was a watershed moment in Black business history. Johnson used his wealth to make additional investments, including becoming the first Black majority owner of a major professional sports team when he launched the Charlotte Bobcats, now Hornets, NBA franchise. He founded the RLJ Companies, a holding company with investments in hotels, private equity, financial services, and other sectors. His success opened doors and changed perceptions about the scale of business that Black entrepreneurs could achieve. BET's legacy is complex. Critics have pointed out that after the Viacom acquisition, the network's programming shifted toward reality shows and music videos that some argued perpetuated negative stereotypes. Johnson himself has acknowledged that BET could have done more to elevate positive images and original content. But the network's impact on Black media representation and on proving the viability of Black-targeted cable networks is undeniable. The Johnson dynasty demonstrated that identifying an underserved market, building infrastructure to serve that market, and scaling the operation with disciplined business practices could create billion-dollar enterprises. Johnson's success with BET paved the way for other Black media moguls, including Kathy Hughes with Radio One, now Urban One, Byron Allen with Entertainment Studios, and Oprah Winfrey with OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network. The Simmons Dynasty, hip-hop entrepreneurship and fashion empire. When Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin founded Def Jam Recordings in 1984 in Rubin's New York University dormitory, they launched more than a record label. They birthed a cultural movement that would transform music, fashion, advertising, and entrepreneurship. Later, when Damon Dash partnered with Jay-Z to create Rockefeller Records and expanded into fashion with Rockaware, they proved that hip-hop culture could be monetized across multiple industries simultaneously. Together, these ventures represent a dynasty built on urban authenticity, cultural credibility, and shrewd business instincts. Russell Simmons grew up in Hollis, Queens, during the birth of hip-hop culture. While studying sociology at City College of New York, he began promoting rap concerts and managing artists. He recognized that hip-hop was not just music. It was a complete cultural expression encompassing fashion, language, attitude, and lifestyle. This holistic understanding would become the foundation of his business empire. Def Jam's early roster, LL Cool J, Run DMC, featuring Simmons' brother Joseph Run Simmons, the Beastie Boys, and Public Enemy, defined hip-hop's golden age. But Simmons's genius lay in his ability to take hip-hop mainstream without diluting its authenticity. He negotiated groundbreaking deals that gave his artists unprecedented creative control while maintaining ownership of master recordings, a crucial source of long-term wealth that many earlier black musicians had been forced to relinquish. The business model was innovative. Simmons understood that record sales were just the beginning. Artists could generate revenue through concerts, merchandise, endorsements, and brand partnerships. He created Rush Management to handle artist bookings and Rush Communications to manage public relations. In 1992, he launched Phat Farm, a clothing line that brought hip-hop fashion sensibility to mainstream retail. Within a decade, Phat Farm was generating over $200 million in annual revenue. Simmons sold his stake in Def Jam to Universal Music Group in 1999 for $100 million, but he retained Rush Communications and continued building brands. He co-founded the hip-hop clothing line Argyle Culture and launched successful ventures in financial services, UniRush prepaid debit cards, and media, Def Poetry Jam on HBO, which won a Tony Award. Each venture leveraged hip-hop's cultural cachet while building sustainable businesses. Parallel to Simmons' empire building, Damon Dash was creating his own dynasty. In 1995, Dash co-founded Rockefeller Records with Jay-Z, Sean Carter, and Kareem Biggs Burke. Unable to secure a traditional record deal for Jay-Z, they decided to release his debut album, Reasonable Doubt, independently. The album's critical and commercial success proved that artists could build successful careers outside the traditional label system. Rockefeller became more than a record label. It was a lifestyle brand. Dash understood that hip-hop fans didn't just want to listen to the music. They wanted to dress like the artists, drink what they drank, and embody the lifestyle. In 1999, Dash and Jay-Z launched Rocawear, a clothing line that perfectly captured hip-hop's aspirational aesthetic. Within 3 years, Rocawear was generating $700 million in annual revenue. The business expansion continued. Rockefeller Films produced movies. Armadale Vodka offered a premium spirit marketed to hip-hop consumers. The 40/40 Club created upscale sports bars in New York and Las Vegas. Each venture cross-promoted the others, creating a self-reinforcing ecosystem of products and experiences. When Jay-Z sold Rocawear to Iconic's brand group for $204 million in 2007, it validated the economic model. Hip-hop culture could generate wealth not just through music, but through fashion, lifestyle brands, and entertainment ventures. Jay-Z retained ownership of the Rockefeller trademark and licensing rights, ensuring continued revenue streams. The Simmons-Dash dynasty's impact on entrepreneurship cannot be overstated. They demonstrated that urban culture and black culture could drive mainstream consumer behavior. They showed that authentic cultural products could command premium prices. They proved that artists could be owners, not just talent. And they mentored a generation of entrepreneurs who understood that cultural credibility, when combined with business acumen, could build empires. The model they created, music as the entry point, fashion as the amplifier, lifestyle brands as the multiplier, and ownership as the goal, became the blueprint for subsequent generations of hip-hop entrepreneurs. Today, when we see Jay-Z's net worth exceed $2 billion through Roc Nation, Armand de Brignac Champagne, and investments in companies like Uber, or when we watch newer artists like Rihanna build Fenty Beauty into a billion-dollar brand, we're seeing the Simmons-Dash dynasty's legacy in action. The Perry Dynasty, independent film production and studio ownership. In 2006, Tyler Perry opened Tyler Perry Studios on a former Delta Airlines campus in Atlanta, Georgia. By 2019, he had moved to a new 330-acre facility, one of the largest production studios in the United States, larger than Warner Brothers, Paramount, and Sony combined. Perry's journey from homeless playwright to studio owner represents one of the most remarkable entrepreneurial stories in American entertainment history and demonstrates the power of creative control, audience understanding, and relentless work ethic. Tyler Perry's early life was marked by poverty and abuse. Born Emmett Perry Jr. in New Orleans in 1969, he endured a traumatic childhood that included physical abuse from his father. At 16, he legally changed his first name to distance himself from his father. He struggled with homelessness and worked various jobs while teaching himself the craft of playwriting. In 1992, Perry staged his first play, I Know I've Been Changed, in Atlanta. It was a financial disaster. But Perry believed in his material. Gospel-inflected stories exploring faith, family dysfunction, forgiveness, and redemption, all wrapped in comedy and drama. He continued working, saving money, and restaging the play. In 1998, a production at the House of Blues in Atlanta sold out, grossing $1.3 million. Perry had found his audience. The key to Perry's success was his understanding of his audience, primarily Black women, often church-going, who felt underserved by Hollywood. Perry created characters like Medea, a tough-talking elderly woman who became a cultural phenomenon. His plays toured nationally, filling theaters in cities largely ignored by mainstream entertainment. The plays were not expensive productions, simple sets, minimal special effects, but they resonated emotionally. Perry translated this theatrical success into film with Diary of a Mad Black Woman in 2005. Lionsgate distributed the film, which cost $5.5 million to produce and grossed over $50 million domestically. The business model was clear: make modestly budgeted films that spoke directly to an underserved audience, market them through churches and community organizations, and repeat. But Perry's masterstroke was maintaining ownership and creative control. Unlike most filmmaker-studio relationships, Perry financed his films himself or through partnerships that gave him final cut and ownership of the underlying intellectual property. When he negotiated television deals with TBS and OWN, he retained ownership of his shows. This ownership has generated enormous wealth. Forbes estimated Perry's net worth at over $1 billion, with about $320 million coming from his equity stake in BET+. The Tyler Perry Studios facility represents the culmination of his independence strategy. The 330-acre complex includes 12 sound stages, each named after a pioneering Black actor or actress. The studio provides production services not just for Perry's projects, but for major Hollywood productions, including Marvel's Black Panther and The Walking Dead. By owning the infrastructure, Perry captures revenue at multiple levels, as creator, producer, and landlord. Perry's business model challenges Hollywood's conventional wisdom. He writes, produces, directs, and often acts in his projects. He shoots quickly, sometimes completing an entire film in less than a week, using a single camera setup and minimal takes. He keeps budgets low and turns around content quickly. This rapid production schedule allows him to create multiple projects simultaneously, building a content library that generates revenue through theatrical releases, streaming platforms, and syndication. Critics have often dismissed Perry's work as unsophisticated or as perpetuating stereotypes. Perry has responded that he creates content for his audience, not for critics, and that his audience clearly approves. His films have collectively grossed over $1 billion at the box office. More importantly, Perry argues that he provides employment for Black actors, writers, directors, and crew members at a scale few others do. The Perry dynasty has expanded beyond entertainment. Perry has made substantial real estate investments, owns multiple properties, and has diversified into other business ventures. But perhaps his most significant impact has been demonstrating that an independent Black filmmaker can build and own a major studio without relying on traditional Hollywood financing or distribution systems. Perry's philanthropy has been equally impressive. He has quietly paid off layaway accounts for thousands of shoppers during the holidays, donated to numerous charities, funded scholarships, and provided financial support to individuals in crisis. In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic,